Hey guys, welcome to our review of the Jetboil Stash. Jetboil has been on the market for just over 20 years and they have a whole lineup of heaters that all have pretty much the same design. Basically, a cooking pot with a heat exchanger attached to the base. You screw everything onto a fuel canister, and because of the heat exchanger and the way everything works together and fits as a system, it'll heat up your water faster and more efficiently than most other setups. Now, this is a system that I have looked at many times over the years because it's a good looking, well integrated system that has a lot of loyal fans. But I've never actually sprung for one because, well, it's always been a bit on the heavy side. Until the beginning of 2021, the lightest Jetboil was 330 grams, which was almost twice as heavy as the system that I was using. But now we have the Jetboil Stash, which bridges enough of that gap to pique my interest, so I went out and ordered one. The last couple of years, I've been using two main cook systems, both designed to be very, very lightweight. And before we get to the Jetboil, I want to go over these real quick because that's what I'm used to and it kind of shapes my perspective on the Jetboil Stash. Number one is my canister system. This is a BRS 3000T with a 700 milliliter Tokes pot, and it's easy to see why this has been such a popular combo in the ultralight community. It weighs next to nothing. You can find it for about 17 euros or dollars and has been very, very reliable for me over the past couple of years. Number two is a system with an alcohol stove where I measure out just enough ethanol to bring the pot to a boil and then I just let it burn out. Loads of different designs on these stoves starting at about 20 euros or dollars and about 56 grams. Quite an easy thing to DIY as well if you're into that kind of thing. Pretty straightforward, just light it up and wait. So, if these exist and they work and they're that cheap, then why on earth would anyone even consider something like the Jetboil, which costs at least twice as much? Well, a couple of reasons really. First of which is speed and efficiency. I did a few tests to find out how long it takes to get water to a boil both inside and outside in more windy conditions, and you can clearly see that the Jetboil is indeed the most efficient system. The alcohol stove is hard to beat in terms of weight, but it does take the longest. Real world scenario, if you're hiking together and your friends have a Jetboil, don't be surprised if they've finished eating by the time that your water gets to a boil. Then again, you might not be in a rush at all. There is of course also an ecological reason to go for efficiency. We're obviously talking very small amounts of gas or alcohol here, which are not going to tip the scales of climate change. But if you're going to go out into the wild to experience nature, it does feel right to at least try to be conscious of what you burn. Reason number two why I think the Stash is worth a look, even if you already have an ultralight alternative, is usability and safety. Now, I'm pretty fond of my two cook systems, but they do both have some safety issues. The support legs on the BRS stove are very small, and there's also nothing to stabilize the bottom of the canister, so there definitely is a risk of stuff toppling over, especially on uneven terrain. I haven't had it happen, but there's always a little voice in the back of my mind, especially when I'm camping with my kids, that says that maybe saving weight in your backpack isn't really worth risking second-degree burns. The alcohol stove is potentially even more dangerous because the blue flame is pretty much invisible in daylight, and if you should knock it over, the burning ethanol could spread and potentially do a lot of damage. I have vivid memories of long ago bumping into a fondue set while eating and the fire rapidly spreading across the table. We didn't manage to put it out, but I knocked a glass of wine over in the process right onto my brand new laptop. Not exactly my finest hour. So yeah, I'm sure that it's possible to be dumb and dangerous with the Jetboil Stash, but it's just a lot harder. The support legs are wider, the base of the heat exchanger is a more secure fit, and there's a stabilizing thingamajig to connect to the bottom of the canister, all of which I think are good things. That said, weight is of course still an important consideration, and hiking alone, when you have all the time in the world, then I personally do like the simplicity of an alcohol stove. But if you travel in a small group as we usually do, the question then becomes, does everyone take his or her own cook system? And if the answer is no, if we're going to share, then I think that having something like the Jetboil Stash or even one of their bigger systems becomes very interesting, because you can share the weight and you can cook water quickly enough to have everybody eat together. Heating up water for 4 people with an alcohol stove, while possible, is something for folks with way more patience than I possess. A couple of small things that you should know before you buy this. You can use the cooking pot with other systems, but if you have something with a wider burner, do not use the lid, because it can't stand that kind of heat and you will end up with a custom version like mine. You should also know that a Stash gives you very little control over the flame. There are some other systems that give you variable heat control so you can prepare different kinds of food. Not this one, this is strictly a water boiling stove. Also, if I'm being honest, I was a tiny bit disappointed in the wind performance. It is better than what I'm used to, but I expected the difference to be bigger. So I won't be leaving my custom wind blocker at home just yet. But hey, you never know when you're gonna need a tinfoil hat on the trail. So, in conclusion, I am happy with the Jetboil Stash. I'm definitely keeping my other cook systems as well, since they do have their merits, but I reckon I'll be using the Jetboil when I'm not traveling ultralight, when I'm camping or hiking with my family, and when I'm with friends that are open to sharing a cook system. And that is gonna be a big chunk of the time. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.